Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Tesla stock is pretty much break even today heading into Nvidia earnings. I will share with you the estimates and what I think is going to come from Nvidia earnings and all of your Tesla stock breaking news. We have a lot of it today, including short sellers that are digging themselves in an even deeper hole, in which I believe over the next couple of days could be a problem for those short sellers. Tesla could be in the 400s. Really soon. We'll talk about it throughout this video. Also, keep in mind, Nvidia can be a big mover, and it is the most valuable company in the world. Last I checked, Apple and Nvidia kind of, chase each other for the top spot. It's going to be a big market cap move for, all of your S&P, your mega cap names. But keep in mind, we've already gotten CapEx guidance that has been raised from pretty much all of your big tech firms. Oracle has come out with some big plans for buying Nvidia chips. So has XAI. I don't think we're going to get a narrative shift from Nvidia earnings today. The question is it priced in? Is all the bearishness priced in to the earnings? If we do get slightly disappointed, is it priced in? And I think the answer is yes. And I think people are probably too bearish heading into Nvidia earnings. I think Nvidia is probably going to impress to the upside. Again, keep in mind, Nvidia already said they're going to have a $5.5 billion write-off from essentially like a tax from exporting their chips, right? We already know this. We already know things are not going to be great. That probably sets you up for an upside surprise coming after Nvidia reports at 4:20 p.m. today. But a lot of the action, again, is going to be on the conference call later in the afternoon. So you're going to get that first move based on the numbers, but that next move based on the commentary and the conference call. So I'm actually very bullish heading into Nvidia earnings. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to get into. Let's get started. Hit that like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Let's get rocking and rolling. Before we get into Tesla stock specifically, here you have the estimates for Nvidia. The earnings whisper estimate is 77 cents for EPS. Consensus is 85 cents. Okay. Normally this does not happen. Okay. Normally, the earnings whisper estimate is not lower than consensus. This probably tells me that consensus at 85 cents is probably not consensus. That may be where the numbers are penciled in from analysts, but more so around 77 cents. So if that's a number we get, it may not be super shocking, in a negative way. Now, revenue at $42.71 billion is the estimate. Nvidia typically beats. But again, you have that $5.5 billion write-off. So I think expectations are probably even a little bit lower than that, probably closer to about 42 billion, maybe 41.5 billion. Now, Bank of America yesterday came out and said that they expect this quarter's guidance, Q2 guidance from Nvidia, could come in at about 41 billion, which would be the first quarter-over-quarter contraction, if these estimates are right, in revenue for Nvidia in a long time. Again, that's the expectation. If we don't get a really low guidance number, that's going to be seen as really good news. And if we do, it's probably already priced in anyways. Now, starting off today with your Tesla stock news, Tesla has started rolling out a software update, 2025.14.12, with a new feature called Child Left Alone Detection, which will flash the vehicle lights and play an alert tone and send a notification to your Tesla app if an unattended child is detected. Also, it looks like FSD unsupervised is being used in Giga Berlin. After the cars are done in the production or assembly line, they are driving themselves out to the outbound lot, doing this all by itself. Elon Musk said as well that he probably did spend too much time on politics and that he's reduced that significantly in recent weeks. He says, quote, "I think I probably did spend a bit too much time on politics. It's less than people would think because the media is going to over-represent any political stuff because political bones of contention get a lot of attraction in the media. It's not like I left the companies. I was just relative time allocation that probably was a little too high on the government side, and I've reduced that significantly in recent weeks." A new piece of land in Texas is being prepared for a big energy project. The project will provide 1,000 megawatts of steady electricity, a 232 million Tesla Megapack battery energy storage system that can store 1 gigawatt hour of energy, enough to supply that power for 4 hours. The land is set up so companies can buy this power in chunks of 250 megawatts. It connects to the ERCOT power grid, which manages most of Texas electricity. The project aims to be ready in 2028 and is specifically designed for large tech companies like those running cloud computing or AI that need a lot of reliable, low carbon power. Elon Musk said in a new interview, quote, "I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit and undermines the work the Doge team is doing. I think a bill could be big or it could be beautiful. I don't know if it can be both." China's regulators have summoned automakers, including BYD, to discuss increasing sales of used cars that were never driven, kind of like ghost cities that were built but never lived in. A phenomenon called secondhand cars with zero mileage had emerged in the Chinese market as a result of the industry's years-long price war. The phenomenon included cars that had been registered and had license plates, marking them as sold, but had never been driven, being sold in the secondhand market. At least 3,000 to 4,000 vendors on Chinese used car platforms were selling such cars. BMW, Mercedes, and Volkswagen are in talks with the U.S. Department of Commerce on a tariff deal that would involve a mechanism to offset imports and exports. In return for tariff relief, the companies could invest billions in the United States. Tesla wins council approval for a new battery recycling facility in South Australia. Many people voiced their opposition, but Mayor Chris Hanna said blocking the sale of the site would have no impact on Musk and would have cost 100 local jobs. Quote, "If we didn't proceed, it would have cost 100 jobs to local residents, but it would have had no impact on Elon Musk," he said. Tesla would almost certainly find somewhere else in Australia to build their factory. Elon Musk's AI company XAI is investing $300 million worth of cash and equity into Telegram. As part of the deal, XAI's chatbot Grok will be distributed via Telegram and integrated into apps available on Telegram's platform for 1 year. Telegram will earn 50% of the revenue from XAI subscriptions that are purchased through the app. Now that's interesting because Walter Isaacson said today that he thinks a merger between XAI and Tesla will happen one day. He says, quote, "I think it's going to happen because Musk, even in my book, when he's starting XAI, he's talking about these chatbots are fine. But what you need is real world AI. You need to be able to not only take all the texts and tweets that have ever been written, but also the videos from Tesla's and all the Optimus robots seeing and hearing." Basically, again, we all know this, chatbots are great for like search inquiries. They're great for, even like talking to, right? Like having pretty intelligent conversations. I do this all the time with, Grok specifically. But as far as deploying like real world AI, you need videos, you need hearing and things that chatbots cannot do nearly as well as what maybe Tesla's working on. It makes sense for XAI and Tesla to merge at some point and be this behemoth AI company. And, well, now you'll get a stake in Telegram eventually when that happens. Walter Isaacson also said today that Elon Musk is going to have a maniacal intensity right now on both Tesla and its self-driving robotaxis and on SpaceX's Starship. Also in the news today, General Motors has abandoned a plan to dump $300 million into an electric vehicle motor production at its upstate New York plant and will instead invest $888 million to make the latest V8 engines. Brazilian is suing BYD and two of its contractors, saying they were responsible for human trafficking and conditions similar to slavery at a factory construction site in the country. Tesla's app now supports iOS live activities for supercharging. Now, option activity today from hedge funds and institutions is quite positive. You have 93 different trades totaling $48.5 million with a positive order value of 86%. This is again heading into Nvidia earnings, which I think is going to be a big positive catalyst for our markets. Now, what's also interesting, in the last video that was published here on this channel, we talked about the inevitable short squeeze that I think Tesla stock is about to enter, and it could actually really get aggressive later this week. Again, as long as Nvidia does not give us some kind of disaster outlook for AI, which nothing points towards that, I think there's going to be a lot of upwards momentum on this market, even in the next 24 hours, right? The next couple of days even. The short interest just rose from 2.9% to 3.04%. The dollar amount sold short jumped from $27.7 billion to $31 billion. That includes a rise in the amount of shares sold short from about 81.2 million up 4 million to 85.28 million. Short sellers are adding to their short positions here, only digging themselves further in the hole. Okay, Tesla stock right now has the largest accumulation of losses from short sellers. Well over $13-14 billion right now. That's more than Nvidia, that's more than Apple, that's more than Microsoft, that's more than Google. Okay, it's more than any other company, right? That's a problem as Tesla stock continues to go higher. And we've talked about this again on the channel. Above 350, things get exciting. And you can even see from a technical perspective where I have, you know, the lines marked here on the chart. This is another pretty important level in the low 360s. This is where we got rejected back here around February 20th or so. After we had already sold off a bit from the all-time highs, you kind of fell towards the 325 level, bounced back up to the 360s, got rejected, and then things got really bad. If you can break out from here, that prior resistance, things are going to get pretty crazy to the upside. And I think we're going to shortly, in the next week or so, be in the 400s. That's my view. Obviously, I could be wrong by that. I think part of that has to do with the short squeeze. Part of that has to do with the realization that the market backdrop is not nearly as bad as we think, and Tesla has big catalyst upcoming that Wall Street is really underpositioned for. Again, Wall Street should be covering on short positions right now. Instead, they're adding to short positions. That to me just sounds crazy. Now, even today, you have 640,000 shares that are being covered on. Okay, so there's definitely some shorts looking to cover ahead of Nvidia earnings. That's probably a wise decision in my view. Today, the CNN Fear and Greed Index is about right in the middle of greed, sitting at 66. Market momentum, extreme fear. Stock price strength is greed. Stock price breadth, extreme greed. Put and call options, neutral. Market volatility is neutral. Safe haven demand in extreme greed. And junk bond demand, also in extreme greed. Tomorrow, we will be getting a new AI investor sentiment survey, but for the first time in about 2.5 months, we had more bulls than bears, but the bear side is still really elevated and neutral investors are still really elevated. So on Thursday of last week, you had 37.7% of investors who were bullish, 25.6% that were neutral, and 36.7% that were bearish. Okay, I imagine maybe the bears are going to rise a little bit for this Thursday's report. And again, you got to look at this as a contrarian kind of signal. The more people are bearish, the more upside there is, okay? Because markets move based on what is expected. And I think people are way too bearish right now in their expectations and really their positioning from hedge funds and institutions. Retail investors like me and you, we bought the dip. during the 20% crash we just experienced. Wall Street was selling that crash. They were selling all the way down. They were not buying any of that. Okay. So here's where the chase starts, as Wall Street realizes things are not nearly as bad as maybe they thought they were. Now, the percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average sitting at 64.55%. You're kind of in a normal range at this point. You were in the 70s, which was a little on the high side at about 72%. But again, you're back down. This is kind of a normal range between 65 and 55 for any given market. Once you start to get above like 75%, you're getting to the high side of where we have been at over the last 4 or 5 years or so. So keep that in mind. There is room for markets to move higher here. We did get the Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index today, coming in line with expectations at -9. Manufacturing shipments came in at -10. Expectation was -11, so that was actually a beat. And services revenues came in at -11. The expectation was -5, so that was a miss. Dallas Fed Services Index came in at -10.1, largely in line with the estimate of -10. The FOMC minutes, came out, usually not a catalyst for markets. It's just backwards looking, so I don't really think there's anything to discuss there. Trump says that an Iran deal could happen over the next few weeks. Trump says we want to go into Iran with inspectors, and he warned Netanyahu against Iran actions. Trump says that he has a warm spot for TikTok, but he said on a TikTok deal that China is never easy and that he would need China's approval for a TikTok deal. And Trump said he didn't impose Russia sanctions because he didn't want to screw up a potential deal. Trump said on Musk's comments on the bill being just not good, he says, we will negotiate the bill. I'm not happy about all aspects of it. So he's kind of taking Elon's side here, which sounds pretty good, that it's not great. It could be improved on. Trump says we will respond differently if Putin is playing us. US CEA's Moran says the bond market will come to see lower rates coming in time. And he says that interest rates will come down over time. According to a Fed survey today, in 2024, 29% of people said the economy was good or excellent, down from 2019's 50%. That, again, there's a lot of people that are in a recession right now, that have been in a recession for really since like 2022, like the second half of 2021. When prices started to really rise. That's why I hope the no tax on tips or no tax on overtime does go through in the spending bill, even though, yes, it's going to raise the deficit, but it's going to give people a lot more money to spend in the economy, and overall, I think be a net positive for 60, 70, 80 million Americans and help push them out of a recession. And according to the same Fed survey, in 2024, 63% said they could cover a $400 emergency with cash or equivalents. Little changed from 2023. That's crazy. Okay, so what? 37% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency expense with cash or a credit card? That is not good. And really how I look at this is there's probably a lot of room for people's financial situations to get better here. This, to me, again, is unchanged from 2023, highlighting just how bad people's financial positions have been in for a long time, right? Hopefully this can get better. In 2024, 73% of Americans said they were doing okay or comfortable financially. Little changed from 2023. Now, also in the news today, positive news for trade talks with the EU. The EU agreed to speak to Greer and Lutnick every other day. So hopefully some kind of arrangement gets figured out relatively soon. And Moran on the EU says, I think they will come around. And China is welcoming more cooperation with firms, including Morgan Stanley. And China's Vice Premier He says, I welcome U.S. financial institutions and long-term capital to participate in China's capital markets. So again, I think there was a lot of good news today from trade talks, opening markets, China, the EU. The Iran stuff markets really don't care about all too much. TikTok deal, not really a big deal. But Wall Street's just waiting on Nvidia earnings. That is really the catalyst today. There's also going to be other earnings as well today and after hours to keep in mind. Salesforce, C3 AI, Elf, Nutanix, Agilent Technologies, Viva, Centennial One, Pure Storage, and Synopsys that will also be reporting earnings. So obviously, AI with Salesforce, C3 AI, AI software really, Pure Storage, Synopsys, like a lot of software specifically related to AI today. And then Nvidia, that's the big dog. Tomorrow morning, Foot Locker, Best Buy, Kohl's, Hormel Foods, Futu, Burlington, and Build-A-Bear Workshop. And then tomorrow and after hours, Marvell, Costco, Dell, Elastic, Zscaler, Ulta, Gap, American Eagle, Ambarella, and NetApp will be reporting. So still some pretty important earnings on the books. Again, Nvidia is the big one. And I think expectations are just too negative. Like, people do not have high hopes for Nvidia, specifically for what guidance is going to look like. And normally when expectations are low, there's room for an upside surprise. And that's what I think we're going to get today with Nvidia earnings. But we will talk about this more in depth in the video that comes out at 8 p.m. tonight. What, happened with Nvidia earnings and how it could affect the markets, how it could affect Tesla over the coming days. So let me know your thoughts on all of this down below in the comment section. Ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.